important story that we're tracking between 4 p.m. But as of now, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. today, Cyclone Biporjoy will be making a furious landfall close to Gujarat, packing winds at 125 to 135 km per hour, gusting up to 150 in coastal region. Remember, monsoon is also expected to hit Maharashtra within the next 48 hours. As predicted by Indian Meteorological Department, the southwest monsoon is expected to reach Maharashtra, Karnataka and Goa, albeit a little late. Last year was the year of extreme weather events. This year is no little. Will it weigh heavily on India's agriculture sector? How is agriculture sector looking like? What will the impact of weather events be? All of that and more on this bulletin. Joining me at this point in time is Suman Chowdhury. Also with us is Harvir Singh. I'm given to understand Suman is with us. Suman, I'm going to directly begin by asking you, what is the likely impact on businesses and on agriculture sector on all the coastal regions owing to this massive cyclone? Okay, we don't have guests right now with us, but cyclone expected to make a landfall, Karthik, Krishna, at about 5 p.m. Various weather reports, they're asking people to be extremely very careful.
Right. So, Shweta, given that this is Western India, this is Gujarat, and Gujarat is not really a traditional agriculture belt per se. But however, in the realm of agriculture, you of course have fisheries and you have cattle, and that is likely to get impacted, specifically on the food basket side when it comes to the cyclone in Gujarat. But I think the economic impact is going to be devastating in any case, and we have had cyclones in Odisha and in the eastern side create an economic loss of over 1 lakh crores or so in the past, right? And if you were to look at Gujarat specifically, infrastructure takes a massive hit, industries take a massive hit. So I've been made to understand that Gujarat has its refinery, and where it shipping of course. So I'm coming to shipping also, but the Gujarat Ambani refinery, RIL refinery, that refines crude for diesel and exports to Europe. And Europe has incidentally increased its import of diesel from India given the sanctions on Russia. So the RIL refinery has been shut down, and has been shut down for the last 2 days, and is likely to remain shut for the next few days as well until the cyclone condition improves. Overall, there is loss on roads, infrastructure projects, bridges. Adani, which operates its ports on the Gujarat coast, has also stopped its shipping operations. It has a massive container depot as well on the coast of Gujarat, and overall that is likely to hit the export side of the economy drastically. And then of course there is going to be I mean, God forbid, but there's a huge probability of loss of life, loss of property, and infrastructure that I mentioned altogether. I mean, all of this and infrastructure combined is going to be a blow to the economy per se.
Okay, blow to the economy. It's been delayed a little bit. It's delayed from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. 5 p.m. is when people are told to be extremely very careful. There's an advisory from the government. Businesses, as Karthik pointed out, is likely to take a hit. This is coastal region, heavily dependent on how weather and climatic conditions are going to be or will pan out to be. Loss to infrastructure is one thing, Karthik, Krishna. The other aspect being, of course, the daily economic activities that are likely to take a hit.
There are ways and means of, say, quantifying. For example, when Cyclone Fani in 2019 hit Odisha, the cost of that was around 9,300 crore rupees, nearly 10,000 crore rupees was the estimated loss caused by Cyclone Fani. I have more details. Cyclone Amphan, which hit in 2020 in May, caused a loss of 1.16 lakh crore rupees. That's United Nations data. More than 1 lakh crore rupees worth of damage being caused by Cyclone Amphan. So, I mean, we have to brace ourselves for the post-disaster relief efforts. Money is going to be needed for that as well. So, all of that put together, we'll get an idea of how much money is lost because of this particular Cyclone Biporjoy. But I will tell you this one more, adding to all the refineries that Karthik was talking about. There is the Sikka port in Gujarat, where the Reliance has a refinery where it exports petrol, diesel and all kinds of oils from there. That port has suspended operations, has suspended exports, and that port has the capacity to export over 700,000 barrels of oil per day. And that is the port which is sending all the oil to Europe which has been a most lucrative trade route for us at a time when, because of the Ukraine war and the sanctions on Russia, so many European nations have been importing oil from Asian economies, and India has been a huge beneficiary of it. So, as far as Cyclone Biporjoy is concerned, it has very significant economic impact on India.
Okay. Harvir Singh is with us. Sir, appreciate you taking time out. I want to quickly begin by asking, we've been discussing, of course, the repercussions of Cyclone Biporjoy making landfall at approximately 5 p.m. today, hitting coastal regions of India. There is going to be impact on life, but there's also going to be impact on economy and day-to-day economic activities of people residing in these areas.
Yes, it will affect day-to-day life, as well as the economic impact will be bigger than this thing. Maybe through precautionary measures and steps taken by the agencies, we can save the lives, and safety is more important. But at the same time, if we look towards the economic losses, that is very difficult to prevent, and you know that the area will have very heavy rainfall and winds, and may destroy crops in the area, as well as because this area is mainly port area, and a lot of economic activities takes place there, and now it has become the most important, and I think hectic for imports and exports. That area, little of goods moves out and in through these ports in that area, and these activities will get affected.
Mr. Singh, we will of course talk about the cyclone in just a bit, but I also want to understand from you, another important story that we're tracking is the impact of delayed monsoon. Monsoon is also going to hit Maharashtra, Goa very soon. It's delayed. Is there a prediction of El Nino? Does that stand? What's going to be impact of a delayed monsoon on rural economy?
I think this year is not looks really good for rural economy, and monsoon is already delayed, and till now the progress of monsoon is not satisfactory, and national atmospheric and oceanic National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of US gave this probability of a very strong El Nino this year, and this El Nino already the impact already started in May. So that is, I think that is going to affect our monsoon. And for Kharif, monsoon is very important, and still we have more than 50% of our area is rainfall dependent. And Kharif, particularly grain, coarse grain as well as rice, depends a lot on monsoon rainfall, because this paddy crop is very
Okay.
water consuming crop. So, and I think that is not good for rural economy. And at the same time, already we are feeling this thing that higher inflation in cereals. So that may also disturb this scenario on inflationary front also, and may make the life difficult for poor and the common man, and will also affect the farmers' income. It looks like that
Okay.
as on date.
Okay, Suman Chowdhury is also joining us on the bulletin. Suman, I want to quickly begin by asking you, what's the economic impact of the cyclone that is awaited at 5 p.m. today? Is there an assessment? Have you been able to make an assessment?
Not really, Shweta. I think, we will have to really understand the damage that cyclone actually does on the ground. But the point here is that, cyclones are not very unusual
Okay.
in the Indian coast, particularly before and after the monsoon. It happens more on the eastern coast of the country, but once in a while it does happen in the Arabian Sea as well. What is happening in the last few, I think, 1 decade or so, is that the frequency and the severity of the cyclones are on an increase. And these are possibly due to the climate changes that we are seeing all over the world. Correct. And as far as the impact of the cyclones are concerned, the economic losses, look, let us go back to that one of the more damaging cyclones that happened in West Bengal in 2020, in May 2020. This was the Amphan cyclone, which resulted in economic losses of around 14 billion. So this was an estimate by an UN report that there were losses of around 14 billion US dollars. Now, if you translate that into a percentage of GSDP of the state, which is around, let us say, around it was around 14 lakh crores. So then it comes to roughly around 8%. So in 2020, this cyclone had an impact of 8% on the GDP of the particular state. Now, what is possible is that this cyclone, although the concentration of population is not so high, where it is hitting like Saurashtra and Kutch, but still there are many industrial establishments there. So it's possible that the impact can be as high as 5% of the state's GSDP, depending on the severity. That's a very large overall broad assessment that we can do at this point.
Okay. 5% of the state
Up to
GDP.
5% is possible.
Okay,
yes,
up to 5%, still a very significant number there. And you know, as we were discussing the overall impact of climatic and weather conditions, agri we depend on as a sector largely. We are an agri economy. We are also a country that is still, and majority of it is still unregulated to a point that we want to tap into the agri sector and its growth potential, growing at about 5% in the last quarter as per numbers that are out. We are heavily banking on the growth of agri sector in this year, in the financial year. It is an important year, not just economically but also politically for the country. What sort of growth impact are you looking at of an El Nino-like condition, because the monsoon is late by at least a week to hit the coast of Kerala, and it's late to now come into north. And from my very limited understanding of the climatic conditions, what is the impact of a late monsoon, and could that mean an El Nino-like condition in the country?
I think, Shweta, I am also not a meteorological expert. So it's very difficult to predict the El Nino phenomenon. But what I gather and what I understand from what I read is that there is very clearly a risk of the El Nino phenomenon, which is the warming of the waters of the Pacific Ocean. And it happens with a kind of a frequency of once in 4 or 5 years. And it does impact the regular weather patterns. And clearly there is, in our mind, and what is also expected, there will be an impact of the El Nino on the monsoon. I think, and as you rightly said, if you go by what is happening right now, there is a delay, although IMD has said that this is going to be a largely normal monsoon. As of now, I think we need to keep our fingers crossed because the monsoon doesn't seem to be at least timely in June, and the El Nino phenomenon is going to hit in some time. So there is a significant risk, as one of my, I think the other participant in the show also, the gentleman mentioned, there is a risk to agriculture in the current year, and that is exactly the reason we have been a little circumspect on the growth forecast that we have made. We have been consistently saying, although there are estimates, of 6.5, 7%, there is a downside to the growth, primarily because of this phenomenon, that agriculture may be hit, which means rural demand may be impacted, and the inflation may be higher in the second part. Although inflation is low now, it can pick up in the second part of the current year, and that is why we are a little cautious on the growth for the current year. We would peg it at not more than 6% as of now because of these risks.
Hi Suman, this is Karthik here from the studio. I'm Shweta's colleague. I want to understand from you, there are these coastal regions that we see every year or two get impacted, and there is loss of property and infrastructure. What does it take to build infrastructure like Japan has, which is climate proof in that sense? And given that we are in a world of climate change, and the fact that these kind of cyclonic conditions are going to become more and more frequent, whether you talk about the coastline of Andhra or on the east, Bengal, Odisha, or on the west, Gujarat, this is not the last of the cyclones that we will see as a nation or as a world. And every time to incur these losses and rebuild cities, What does it take to build infrastructure that can withstand the onslaught of such climatic conditions?
I think, Karthik, you are right. I think Japan is an example of course, a very developed economy. So they have the financial resources probably to handle this kind of extreme weather events through various measures. In my mind, currently, given the fiscal position that India has, the resource position that we have as a government and as a country, and given the length of the coastline that we have, it's a huge coastline that India has, both on the eastern and the western side. I think putting up infrastructure to handle the cyclone impact will be difficult. I think I am not aware of how it can be done in a cost efficient manner. I think it's going to be difficult. So the only way I see it is how effective we make our early warning systems. So you need to have very efficient early warning systems, which can therefore result in a precautionary displacement or of people, relocation of people, so that you can at least address the issue of lives and
Yeah.
that impact on livelihood therefore can be, there will be some impact on infrastructure and property, but at least the lives can be secured. I think some preventive measures can be taken, which is something that I believe is more practical at this point in time. So early measures or preventive measures is the solution to me. That looks like a more practical thing to me.
Right. Suman, Harvir, we are of course tracking all the details of Cyclone Biporjoy as it makes landfall. We are told in about an hour's time from now there's going to be economic impact, there's going to be impact on life and order in society. We will bring you more details as and when we can.